Michele and I are off on the XPT to Dubbo for a couple-day getaway. The train makes several stops along the way before we get to Dubbo.
Terry and Michele.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah? Going to Dubbo today.
Yep.
Perfect, thank you very much.
We passed the famous Hydro Majestic Hotel, which is just outside of Katoomba. As the train continues to climb into the Blue Mountains, we catch glimpses of the beautiful scenery from the Blue Mountains along the way. And as we get higher, the scenery changes to beautiful rolling farmland. There's the oldies there enjoying themselves. And this is another stop, which is in Orange. So we aren't too far away from Dubbo now. The scenery becomes drier as we enter the wheat country. The wheat has just been harvested and is stored in these grain silos. At last we arrive in Dubbo. The station is a heritage listed station built in 1881 and has been beautifully preserved both inside and out. The next day we went to the Taronga Western Plains Zoo in Dubbo, sometimes known as the Dubbo Zoo. Because it's 6 kilometers all the way around the zoo, we've rented a golf buggy to take us around. The zoo is home to hundreds of rare and endangered animals, and they can all be seen in their natural environments, not in cages. Manna, the hippopotamus, has decided that it's lunchtime. He's coming up to find something to eat. Although they're capable of moving quite fast, he's just taking his time today to get up there. They've prepared a beautiful frozen block of fruit for him to eat. But as you'll see, he actually prefers the hay. And after a lunch of hay, he washes it down with some water. Because it's the middle of the day, many of the animals are having a snooze now. That's the rhinoceros and the leopard. And of course the tiger. And the lions are all in the shade having their afternoon snooze. But there's a big bird population there, and that was quite interesting. And the African elephants, who are very family orientated, seem to be going around keeping in touch with one another. While echidna just wandering around sniffing things out. And an ostrich. And some of them move slower than others. This is a Galapagos giant tortoise who's over 100 years old. And interestingly, they're not only found on the Galapagos Islands, but also in parts of South America. Okay, next day we went to the old Dubbo Zoo.
The compromise that was made was to hide the jail, to close the front entrance that we all walked through, sell it to a bank that used to be next door.
This man was going over some of the history of the jail, as well as some of the 37 escapes that occurred over the history of the jail. This was the women's part of the prison here, and that was their toilet and bathroom. Wow, nice, huh? There's only 2 women's cells and 12 men's cells in the jail. They did a good job of making the jail look as realistic as possible to try to bring us back to what it was really like to be in there at that time. There was a separate museum room that had a lot of artifacts of what was used back in that time. And then it showed the pictures of all the men and women that were condemned to death. And out of all of them, there was actually only 8 men that were hung, the last being in 1904. This is the gallows that was used until 1904, and then they had a graveyard there where people were buried that died in jail. And that was the end of our tour. So after the tour, we decided to go to lunch at a very popular bakery, and had a beautiful lunch. And then explored all the op shops that were in town. And in the evening, we went to the bowling club near where we were staying, and would have a rousing game of pool before having dinner. And the last highlight of our trip was the beautiful sunset over the Blue Mountains, which is hard to tell from this video, but it was awesome sunset. And we arrived back in Sydney about 8:30 at night.